You clicked because somebody told you Takomo clubs are cheap junk. Maybe a buddy at the range said it. Maybe a comment under some review. I heard the same thing. So I did something a little crazy. I bought 10 complete Takomo sets with my own money, every model they make. Then I dragged all of it onto a launch monitor next to clubs costing 3 times as much. What the screen showed me made me feel like I'd been robbed for the last decade. And I've got the yardage numbers to prove it. Let me back up and tell you exactly what I did, because I know you're skeptical, and you should be. I'm skeptical of everybody in this business. I've spent more money on golf clubs than I'd ever admit to my wife, and half of it did absolutely nothing for my game. So when a company shows up selling forged irons direct to your door for about $65 a club, my first thought was the same as yours. Too good to be true. Cheap metal, weak shafts, clubs that'll rust in a season. That was my honest assumption walking in. Here's the thing that got me curious enough to spend the money. A few years back, I stood in a big box golf shop and watched a fitter put me on their monitor with a brand new set of premium blades. $1,200 for the irons. My 7-iron carried 152 yards that afternoon. I remember the number because I wrote it on the receipt like an idiot. Proud of it. Then this year I hit a Takomo 7-iron on the same kind of monitor, and the carry number came up 154. 2 yards longer. With a club that cost less than a nice dinner, I stared at that screen for a long time. So I ordered everything. The 101 irons, their most forgiving game improvement set. The 201, their player's cavity back. The 301, a true muscle back blade for better players. I ordered multiple sets, different shafts, different flexes, so I wasn't judging one lucky sample. 10 sets total showed up at my door over a few weeks, and my garage looked like a pro shop had exploded in it. The first thing I did was pick each club up and try to find the cheapness. That's what junk feels like in your hands. A hollow ping, a rough edge, a paint job that looks like a toy. I've held junk clubs. I know the feeling, and I couldn't find it. The 101 came out of the box with a soft satin finish and a clean cavity, and when I ran my thumb along the leading edge, it was smooth and rounded the way a forged iron is supposed to feel. But feel is a story people tell themselves. Feel doesn't win golf holes. Numbers do. So let me tell you what the numbers actually said, because this is where it stopped being funny and started making me a little angry. I set up a session with the 101 7-iron against 3 of the most popular game improvement irons on the market right now, the ones every 50-something golfer sees advertised during tournament coverage. I'm not going to pretend I hit each club 1,000 times like a robot. I hit each one 15 good swings, threw out the 2 worst, and averaged the rest. Ball speed on the premium name brand iron averaged around 116 miles an hour for me. Ball speed on the Takomo 101, 116.4, inside the margin of error. Basically identical. Carry distance told the same story. The famous brand carried 156 yards on my good swings. The Takomo carried 155 1 yard. That is nothing. That is a gust of wind. That is where you tee it up on the mat. For all practical purposes, on the club that matters most in your bag, the $65 iron and the $200 iron did the exact same thing. Now here's where the tension really starts, because a reasonable person asks the obvious question, how? How does a company nobody's heard of make an iron that performs identical to the giants? And that question has an answer, and the answer is the part they really don't want you thinking about. The big names are not manufacturing magic. Most forged irons in the world, including plenty of premium ones, come out of a small number of foundries, and several of them are in the same region of Asia. Takomo's been open about the fact that their clubs are forged in a facility that produces heads for well-known premium brands too. Same molten metal, same forging presses, same grinding. The steel doesn't know whose name is getting stamped on it. When you buy the big brand, you are paying for the exact same forging process, plus a tour player's contract, plus a national television ad, plus a retail store's rent, plus a distributor's cut, plus a marketing department's salaries. Every one of those hands takes money out of your wallet before the club ever reaches you. Takomo skips almost all of it. They sell straight from the maker to your front door. No store, no middleman, No tour star getting paid millions to say he loves clubs he'd never actually game. A complete premium iron set today, say 4 iron through pitching wedge, runs you anywhere from $1,100 to $1,400. The comparable Takomo set, forged, custom fit to your specs, lands right around $500 to $550 delivered. You are looking at a gap of $700 or more. $700 for the same forging, hitting the same distance, off the same launch monitor. And I want to be honest with you, because that's the whole point of what I do here. $700 is not the end of the story. It's worse than that. And I'll show you why later when I test what happens over 10 years of buying gear. But first, I owe you the rest of the test, because I promised I'd hit all 10 sets, and I did. Therefore, let me take you through the models one by one, because they are not all the same club, and you should not buy the wrong one for your swing. Start with the 101, since that's the one most of you watching should actually care about. This is the forgiving iron, the wider sole, the perimeter weighting, the club built to help a slower, older swing get the ball up in the air, and getting the ball up is the whole game after 50. I don't care how far you used to hit it. If your 7-iron launches too low and lands flat, it won't hold a green, and you'll short side yourself all day. The 101 launched my 7-iron at just under 18 degrees with a peak height around 90 feet. That's a ball that comes down soft and sits. My old blades from years back launched that same club 3 degrees lower and ran off the back of every firm green I played. The 101 fixed a problem I'd been swearing at for years, and it did it for $65 a club. The dispersion number impressed me even more than the distance. Across my 15 swings with the 101 7-iron, my shots landed inside a circle about 18 feet wide side to side. With a blade, that same test spread me across nearly 30 feet. That is the difference between a 15-foot putt and a chip from the rough. Forgiveness isn't a marketing word, it's measurable, and for an aging swing, it's worth more than distance. But here's the twist that surprised me. The 101 is a forged cavity back. And for decades, the industry told us you cannot have forgiveness and forged feel in the same club at this price. That was the rule. Forged meant expensive and demanding. Forgiving meant cast and cheap feeling. The 101 breaks that rule in your hands, and once you feel it, you start to wonder what else you've been told that simply isn't true anymore. So I moved to the 201, the player's cavity back, and this is the one for the golfer who still strikes it pretty well and wants a little more shaping and a thinner look at a dress. The 201 gave up a touch of forgiveness. That dispersion circle grew a few feet, but the feel off the center of the face was the best of the three. A soft, dense click that tells you exactly where you hit it. For a mid-handicapper who wants a club that rewards good contact without punishing every miss into oblivion, the 201 is the sweet spot. It ran me the same money. Then the 301, the muscleback blade. Now, I'll be straight with you. Most of you should not buy this club, and I include a lot of low handicappers in that. A blade shows you no mercy. Miss the center by half an inch, and you feel it in your fingers and see it in the yardage. But I tested it because I wanted to know if a $500 company could forge a real blade, and the answer floored me. The 301 felt every bit as good as blades I've hit that cost $250 a club. The grind on the sole was clean. The top line was thin and honest. If you're a good player who wants a blade to work the ball, this thing competes with anything in the game at a fraction of the price. Across all 10 sets, all 3 models, all the different shafts, I did not find the junk I went looking for. I found clubs that performed, and that forced me to confront an uncomfortable question about all the money I'd spent over the years. Now, I can hear some of you already. You're thinking this is fine for the guy buying a whole new set, but you just bought irons last year or 3 years ago, and you're not about to spend another dime right now. I hear you. And this next part is specifically for you, because the biggest gains I found in all my testing didn't actually require new clubs at all. Here's the truth. Almost nobody in a pro shop will tell you, because there's no product to sell you at the end of it. The single most common reason your irons scatter shots left and right is not the brand on the sole. It's your lie angle being wrong for you. Lie angle is the angle between the shaft and the ground when the club sits flat. If it's too upright for you, you pull shots left. Too flat, you push them right. And here's the kicker. Almost every set sold off a rack comes in one standard lie angle built for an imaginary average golfer who does not exist. If you're shorter, taller, or you've changed your posture as you've gotten older, that standard club is fighting you on every swing. And that single decision, cutting out the chain of people between the foundry and you, is where the savings live. It was never about the metal being cheaper. The metal is the same. You were paying for the parade. Now, if you want to go even deeper on exactly how this system works and how to use it to your advantage on every club in your bag, I've put everything I know into a book. It's called Iron Decoded, and it walks you through the full breakdown of how equipment pricing really works, what the launch monitor numbers actually mean for your swing speed and your age, and how to build a bag that performs without the premium markup. You can find it linked in the description at honestgolfinsider.com. It's $97, and most golfers tell me it saved them 10 times that on their next equipment decision. Let me put a real dollar figure on the parade, because this is the number that made me set my coffee down. I tested this on myself with clubs I already owned. I had a set bent 2 degrees flatter to match how I actually stand over the ball now in my 60s, with a little less flex in my back than I had at 40. Cost me about $5 a club at a local fitter, so under $40 for the whole set. My dispersion tightened by nearly a third. No new clubs, no new shafts, just bending the metal I already owned to match my body. If you do one thing after watching this, get your lie angle checked, bring your own irons, ask the fitter to check impact with tape and a lie board. $40 might do more for your scores than a $1,000 set ever will. While you've got those irons in the shop, have them check the grips too. Worn, hard, slick grips make you squeeze the handle tighter, and a tight grip kills club head speed and adds tension you don't need. New grips run you about $8 to $10 each installed. A slightly oversized grip also quiets down hands that have gotten a little shaky over the years, and it can straighten out a hook you've been fighting. That's real distance and real accuracy recovered from clubs already in your bag for pocket change. And if your shafts are the problem, that's fixable too without buying new heads. A lot of older golfers are still swinging stiff steel shafts they bought when they were younger and stronger. As your swing speed drops, and it drops for all of us, a shaft that's too stiff launches the ball too low and robs you of carry. Reshafting an existing set into a lighter, softer flex shaft, even a good graphite iron shaft, can add real height and yards. I did this on a friend's set. His 7-iron carry went from 138 to 146 yards. 8 yards, same heads, just a shaft that finally matched his swing. So before you throw money at a whole new set, remember the clubs you own might just need a fitting, not a funeral. But therefore, once you understand fitting, you start to see the real trick the big brands have been pulling. And this is the one that made me the angriest, because it's aimed straight at your ego and your wallet at the same time. This is the part I dug for. I went through equipment specs going back to the 1970s. I read through golfers on Reddit comparing old sets to new ones, and I found the thing the marketing departments pray you never notice. It's called loftjacking, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here's how it works. The number stamped on your iron, the 7, the 8, the 9, that number's not standardized. It never has been. It just refers to a loft, the angle of the face. Back in the 1970s and 80s, a standard 7-iron had about 38 degrees of loft. That was the 7-iron your dad played. Fast forward to today, and a lot of these so-called game improvement irons have a 7-iron with loft as strong as 28, 29 degrees. Let that sink in. The 7-iron they sell you today has the loft of what used to be a 5-iron. So when the fitter tells you their new iron flies 15 yards longer than your old one, of course it does. It's not a better 7-iron. It's a 5-iron with a 7 stamped on it. They took the loft off, they told you got longer, and you happily paid $1,200 to feel young again. Your ego bought it. Your scorecard didn't change one bit, because now you've got a gap you can't fill, and your pitching wedge that used to be 46 degrees is now 41, so you had to buy an extra wedge to plug the hole they created. They sold you the problem and the solution. Here's why this matters more for us than for anybody. When you strengthen a loft, you lower the launch and you lower the spin. A young, fast player can handle that. He's got enough speed to launch a strong loft high enough to land soft. But an older golfer with a moderate swing speed hits that jacked up 7-iron and the ball comes out low and hot and won't hold the green. You bought distance you can't use and lost the height you actually needed. The marketing gave you a bigger number on the launch monitor and a worse result on the course. Now, here's what I found when I checked Takomo's published lofts. And this is the part that ties the whole test together. They publish honest, traditional lofts. Their numbers aren't jacked to trick a launch monitor. Their 101 7-iron sits at a loft that actually launches and lands like a 7-iron should, which is exactly why my carry number was reasonable and my ball held the green. They weren't trying to win the ego war. They were trying to build a club that works. And they charge you a third of the price to do it. So here is the simple thing you can do this weekend, and it costs you nothing. Find the loft of your current 7-iron. It's often printed in the spec sheet online for your model, or a fitter can measure it in 2 minutes. If it's stronger than about 32 degrees and you're over 50 with a moderate swing speed, that right there is why your irons won't stop on the green and why you keep flying the back edge. You don't need to buy anything to learn this. You just need to know the number they hoped you'd never ask about. And once you know it, you get to make a real decision instead of an ego decision. Think about what all this adds up to over time, because the $700 I mentioned earlier was just one set. The industry runs on a 2 to 3 year cycle. Every couple years, there's a new model, a new promise of distance, new tour coverage telling you you're behind. If you upgrade your irons every 3 years for 30 years of retirement golf at the premium price, you're looking at spending somewhere north of $10,000 on irons alone across your golfing life. Do the same thing with honestly priced direct-to-consumer clubs and you're under $4,000. That's a $6,000 difference for clubs that carry the same yardage off the same launch monitor. That's a nice trip. That's a year of green fees. That's real money that was quietly walking out of your pocket while you thought you were just keeping up. And I want to address the last fear because I had it too. Durability. The whole reason people call these clubs junk is they assume cheap means they'll fall apart. So I looked hard at this. Forged carbon steel is forged carbon steel. It's the same soft metal in a premium forging, which means it can ding and it needs the same care, but it will not perform worse over time than the expensive version made the same way. The golfers I found online who've had their sets a couple years report the same wear you'd get on any forged iron. The finish shows bag chatter. The grooves last as long as the grooves on the big names because groove rules are set by the governing body and everyone forges to the same limit. There's no secret premium steel that lasts longer. That was another story I'd told myself to justify the price. Now, let me be fair because honesty cuts both ways, and I won't sell you a fairy tale. Buying direct means you can't walk into a store and hit the club before you buy. You're trusting an online fitting tool and your own knowledge of your specs. If you have no idea what shaft or flex you need, that's a real risk, and it's the one genuine advantage the big retail experience still holds. So do this. Get fit first, even if you pay a local fitter $20 or $30 for an hour of his time and buy nothing. Walk out with your numbers, your lie angle, your shaft flex, your length, then order direct with confidence. You get the fitting and the savings instead of paying the store a $700 premium for a service you could have bought for $30. The other honest note is that resale value on lesser known brands is lower. If you're the type who flips clubs every year and sells the old ones, the big names hold more value used. But think that through. You're paying $700 extra up front to recover maybe $200 at resale. That's not a savings. That's a slow leak dressed up as an investment. If you buy clubs to play them, not to trade them, the direct-to-consumer math wins every single time. So after 10 sets, weeks of testing, and more launch monitor sessions than my back wanted, here's my honest verdict. The clubs are not junk, not even close. The 101 is one of the easiest launching forged irons I've put in my hands. And for the senior golfer fighting to keep the ball in the air, it's the one I'd point you to first. The 201 rewards a decent ball striker. The 301 competes with blades costing 3 times more. The word junk was never about the clubs. It was a story that protected an industry charging you for a parade you never needed to attend. What you really took away today isn't a brand name. It's that you stopped being the golfer who assumes the expensive club is the better club and became the golfer who asks for the number. The loft, the carry, the dispersion, the dollar figure behind the marketing. That's the golfer who stops getting overcharged because he stopped being impressed by the sticker and started demanding the proof. So let me ask you something specific, and I read every answer. Go check the loft on your current 7-iron and come back and tell me the number. If it's stronger than 32 degrees, type it in the comments and tell me if your irons hold the green or fly the back. I want to see how many of you have been playing a 5-iron with a 7 stamped on it and never knew. Drop that number below. Don't just think it, type it, because somebody else reading needs to see they're not alone. And if you're the kind of golfer who's done being sold the parade and just wants the honest number, stick around, because next I'm putting the premium golf balls under the same test, and I found a $3 ball that spins within a fraction of the one costing $50 a dozen. The free breakdown of everything I measured is waiting for you, and it might just save you the price of a whole new set. You work too hard for that money to hand it over for a name. Keep the yards, keep the cash, and keep asking for the number. This video only scratched the surface. Inside the Honest Fairway Club, I give you the full launch monitor breakdown across all 10 sets right where I stopped here, and you can ask me your own question and I answer you myself, not some robot. Senior golfers like you are already in there with me. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. Cancel anytime, one click, no risk. Now, before you spend a penny on new irons, let me save you some heartache. There are a handful of costly mistakes that catch out so many golfers. I'll walk you through every one, and it's starting right here.